When we encounter a person operating with extreme, effortless competence, our brains struggle to map the process. We see the result and assume it is magic, a divine spark or a gift that the rest of us simply lack. Society teaches us that the path to this state is through willpower. We are told to cultivate aggressive self-belief and maintain a constant, confident internal narrator to lead us to greatness. Research into the human nervous system suggests the opposite. In high-level performance, self-belief creates an interference pattern. It is a mechanical glitch that prevents the very growth it aims to achieve. Neurobiology defines the ego as a highly inefficient background application. Its function is to monitor your identity, constantly asking how you look and seeking validation. Maintaining this narrative consumes the same processing bandwidth required to execute the actual task. When you make a mistake and pause to explain it or protect your pride, you trigger a short cycle loop. You stop the physical process to update your identity. This hits a systemic reset button, clearing the cache of the progress you just made. Constant resetting keeps you trapped. You spend your energy practicing the interruption itself, rather than allowing your skills to accumulate over time. We see this system break down when a performer begins monitoring their own mechanics. Under pressure, the ego demands a level of conscious control that the body cannot sustain. In studies on choking, researchers found that the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for conscious analytical thought, tries to hijack the motor cortex. It is the thinking brain attempting to micromanage automated systems that are millions of times faster than it is. This creates a narrative break. The brain stops treating an error as raw data to be corrected, and instead processes it as an existential threat to your identity. The physical action halts so the mind can defend the person's image. Shifting your focus strictly to the external environment, like the trajectory of the ball rather than the angle of your wrist, bypasses this identity bottleneck. Removing self-monitoring allows the motor systems to run without interference. Human performance physically disintegrates the moment the thinking brain attempts to govern automated skills to protect the ego. Consider a mechanically complex task like juggling an asymmetric hat. Its center of mass shifts, and its geometry creates unpredictable drag. Brute force repetition fails here because the object is too chaotic for simple muscle memory. To solve visual latency, the brain builds a forward predictive model, simulating the physics to anticipate the catch. When the internal narrator is silenced, every micro-error bypasses the identity block, feeding directly into this simulation. The feedback compounds, treating failure purely as raw data. This uninterrupted state ensures that every failure improves the starting conditions for the next millisecond of action. Nothing is discarded to protect a story. The human system begins to optimize itself because errors are corrected faster than they can accumulate. The same logic of predictive modeling applies to relational dynamics. Just as a juggler predicts the hat, two people in deep conversation predict each other's intent. In most conversations, we operate in broken short loops. We aren't listening to data. We are drafting defensive monologues to protect our status. The interaction resets every time we pivot back to our own rehearsed points. When the ego is removed, listening becomes direct. Responses form in real time, based purely on what the other person is actually saying. Continuity is maintained across turns. Brain scans show that when this identity filter drops, two people experience neural entrainment. Their brainwaves physically sync up, becoming a single system for processing meaning. Removing the ego transforms a conversation from a back and forth of isolated identities into a shared, rapidly compounding cognitive system. Systems constantly interrupted by the ego produce a 45-degree growth line. Output strictly tracks input. But when continuity is held, without the friction of resets, the system enters runaway compounding. Like an aircraft breaking the sound barrier, growth becomes frictionless and exponential. To an audience accustomed to fragmented, linear progress, this sudden spike looks superhuman. They label the result magic because they weren't present for the uninterrupted accumulation that built it. The internal experience of this state is one of quiet resolution. The uncertainty of the task simply vanishes. There is no internal commentary or euphoria, only the feeling of a system that has finally balanced its own equation. Being a star is not about adding a louder narrator to your mind. It is the result of a rigorous discipline of subtraction, removing the resets so your biological system